So, how much of that strategic part is the psychological part? And what do you enjoy more? Is it really that, like, understanding my competitors, seeing if they might bluffing? How would you rate that psychological part? Is that really the kick, the great fun about it? And is that actually where the real pros are really coming out compared to beginners or who maybe don't make it into the elite of work class?
It's a good question. I like how you phrased it, because it is really a game of communication. It's a game of interaction, and it is a game of actively trying to deceive your opponent, to make strategic blunders, to make errors. I think a big difference between a professional and an amateur is that an amateur might take it personally when you beat them in a game, because they're so invested, and they might, play a little bit above their bankroll, or they're there for a different reason. Who knows? Our job as a professional is, of course, just to win in the game within the ethical limits of what is accepted. You don't want to try to cheat someone. You don't want to try to get over on anyone in any case. I don't try to intimidate my opponents and do those type of psychological tricks that some people might. But I think it's more about having the ability to feel into the mistakes that your opponents do. And in order to feel into that, you have to know what you're looking at. It's very hard to actually make some type of approximation for what's good or what's not without knowing how things work. But some people are kind of savants in this way. They are completely feel-based. A lot of people that made most of the money before this new era were people who were extremely sensitive, who were feeling into what they thought their opponents were doing and then kind of adjusting on the fly without really knowing why. Whereas nowadays, the game has gone a little bit more into the area of science and research and understanding where does the human flaw based on a more predictive model and based on mass database analysis. So you can make some assumptions that a human will have a hard time defending a certain position because it's just not in our nature. So those are some interesting avenues. But then when you sit down at a table, my belief and what I do myself is I do look into, I've studied the interaction between players. I've studied how that looks in both more on the metaphysical and philosophical side for interactions, but more pragmatically data-driven processes for dissecting behavior and how that applies to being in a hand with a player. And it's not what you think. It's not like I can see through your soul. That might have happened a couple of times, but I can make better assumptions if I think that you're excited or nervous. Very similar feeling, very hard to discern. And oftentimes I'm wrong. I'm like, oh, actually he was excited.